What's up, YouTube? Mr. Lemessy here, and today I want to take a look at the survey that Blizzard sent out about a week ago. They sent a survey out post Reign of the Warlock coming out, where they were gauging interest with players to see what sort of stuff they would be interested in the future. I've heard there's some wild options in here. I've heard there's, a lot of stuff people do want, and I'm very curious. I'm very curious to what they actually are questioning and asking what people would like to see. So let's dive in. I have not seen these questions before. This is literally going to be my first time seeing this, just as a heads up. So this is all new for me. We'll do some finagling of our stuff or something. I'll do like this. I'll put myself like here. Put this like this. Something like that. Okay. Question 1. Which of the following? And apparently they just grabbed a lot as well of the question and just kept reformulating it, so they'd put different options up against different things. So yeah. Which of the following is most appealing in the future? Which is least appealing, basically? And then they just go through a bunch of things. So let's see what they option. Load in improvements that prevent loading into death. Wow. That's right off the bat, that's already hilarious. That they're is it appealing to you guys that we improve the load times? This is something that and maybe I'm wrong, but I think they actually had this fixed back in the alpha, beta. There were multiple iterations of the testing for D2R, and one iteration they fixed the load in to death. When you would load in, it would actually pause it and not kill you, and you couldn't take damage, and it waited for you to actually load in before anything would happen. And then they reverted something, I think, for a change, because they're working off okay, we have this version, and then, oh, something's wrong with this version. It's actually causing some issues in somewhere else. And so they reverted it, and I think they reverted this change out of it that wasn't even intentionally removed. So I still, to this day, feel like you guys had it. What happened? It was in one of the iterations you had, and then it got removed. So hopefully they do that. But okay, interesting. More customization for loot filter and better highlighting for rare drops. Wow. Okay, so I didn't think that would be something they would consider, but I guess they're putting it on the list. It is something I've seen a lot of people asking for. They've said, hey, can we have highlighting? So, when that jaw rune drops, like when my jaw rune dropped, maybe if it was a big crazy thing and highlighted red or something, it would work. Personally, I think just having a basic, I like the drop notification, personally, where you can just have, in the chat or in the top left, it just says, jaw rune, and you can just set it for, the big things, and it'll just, notify you of those. I have found that to be nice. I do think when you start highlighting and doing all this stuff, it can look a little moddy, so that's my only, issue. But something that they're asking. Crafting changes where item level is no longer included in recipes. That is least appealing for me. That kind of ruins a lot of the stuff of when you're playing through the game. If you want to craft some, blood gloves or something along the way because you want some crushing blow early on in the game for your character, well, now are they just going to be level 85 required, and I don't love that. I do think we need better crafting options. I don't think removing item level is the proper way, personally. New NPCs in town. Details TBD. I don't have any. That doesn't really matter to me, I guess. I don't care. Augmenting gear by adding a specific affix directly onto an item. I do worry about power creep when you say this. I don't love it. I do think there's some fun, like we saw with corruptions and like PD2, that I do think is interesting. But even then, like the power creep goes way too high with it. And it just like really starts to get out of control. Unless you're like willing to drop power in other places, I don't think augmenting is something that I would love to see that much. I also think it would need to be like hard to do. So, my thought, like something I've talked about before, is like I would love a charm bag in the game, but I think we should have a charm bag that can only hold charms and you hold in your inventory. That way you free up your inventory space. But I think the charm bag should be like 4x4, right? So we're taking away your 10x4, where generally, you have a cube and your portals and all that stuff, but whatever. And we're dropping it down to a 4x4, and we're cutting some of the power out of the charms. So you're not getting 9 skillers or whatever it is. You're getting 4 skillers or 3 skillers and your torch and your Annie and your whatever stuff, right? And you're dropping a lot of power there. And now you can look at, okay, maybe there is augmenting, or maybe there is something else where we can bring some of that power into the other pieces and some fun, but we're keeping the overall top power, more limited. I think that is a better way to go about it, personally. So I'd be scared with this one. Server-wide activities where all players contribute to shared goals and earn rewards. I do think that's fun. I actually really like the ideas of server-wide activities. That's something that I give a thumbs up for that one. I love, everybody contributing through killing Endariel. Let's get 1 million Endariel kills or something, whatever stuff. I think there's a lot of fun with like shared goals. Okay. More. Support for cross-platform play. I think this would be good because from what I can hear, consoles still just kind of a little dead, and I feel a little bad for console players that they like get kind of stuck and they're like, it's hard to play with people. So I do think cross-platform play would probably just be better, right? Anytime you can like bring more people together, I think is good. Group focus features where players work. Okay, so that's the same one. So again, there's going to be repeats because they're just like grouping them in different places to see what's most appealing, least appealing compared to the others. New environments or zones added to the game. Very interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think, again, you have to be like a little careful, but yeah, I think a few new environments or zones could be a lot of fun. I think like there is a proper end game that can be made. I don't know exactly what it is. And there is an end game that goes too far. I think both of those can exist in this. And so you just have to find what it is. Remote in-game trading or item bartering without joining another player's game. Yes, this. Unfortunately, like I do like the old school trade method. Post up your game, go in, find the game, do the trade. I think it's really fun. Unfortunately, it's kind of dated, right? We're at the point now where you got to have an in-game remote trade. You just have to. And I think bringing that in like PoE 2 did would be amazing. And something that I have enjoyed in a lot of other games that I've played, whenever I play a game and I can take what I find and just, okay, end of the day, I went and I found a jaw rune, there's a shooters, a couple of, nice jewels, a Shaco, and blah, blah, blah. I put it up in my shop or a trade tab or whatever. I list like this will cost this price, this will cost this price. And then I just let it trade. It'd be fantastic. And I just love it. I think like that's so fun and it's such a cool way. And then you log in the morning and you're like, yay, look at all these runes I got or whatever. I think that'd be cool. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. So I think it's overdue. I would love to have that. The ability to reroll staff mods in the cube to change the modifiers on a rolled item. Probably not. Personally, I think you don't want to get too you don't want to give too much. Like some of the one of the things that is Diablo 2, which is just Diablo 2, is you go and you find your item and you find the awesome item or you don't find the awesome item, or it has the cool rolls or it has bad rolls and then you drop it. Like that's just kind of Diablo 2. I don't love that every time you find a base or an item, you can re-roll it to be the perfect version of it eventually. Like it's a little too much. So I'm a no on that one. Cursed items with affixes that unlock after completing special objectives. Whoa. That doesn't even sound like Diablo 2. I'm like 50-50 on this. 50%, I kind of think cursed items sounds cool. But I think it's going too far, and I don't think it fits Diablo 2 for me personally. So I just, I'm like, put that in D4 or something, right? But I actually think it's a cool idea, right? I think that is a fun idea, but I just don't think it's Diablo 2, right? I think another game should have it, but not this one. Adding a new mercenary type in Act 4. Yeah, I think it's fun. I think having a new mercenary is always a fun idea. Don't hate it. Skill effect combinations where one skill can trigger or enhance another. Oh, no. Now we're going into Diablo 4 territory too far. Yeah. X detonates Y. A little too Diablo 4 for me. Yeah. And again, there are some cool possibilities of it where the skills do interact. It is something that I thought PoE 2 had some interesting stuff. Not exactly like X detonates Y, but you can cast a frozen orb, and then when you cast Nova, the Nova actually appears wherever the frozen orb is. So it's the skills interact with each other. I do think there's some cool things like that. Again, I don't think that's Diablo 2. I think this is what should be happening in Diablo 4. The cool interactions, the cool advancements over there. I don't think that needs to come to D2. 3 new quests to finish Act 4. Sure. Yeah, I'd love to see Act 4 finished out. That's just, that one goes on the most appealing to me. A new map-based challenge system where you select specific encounters for specific rewards. Probably not. Again, I feel like an endgame system could be interesting in Diablo 2. But there are a lot of places where it can go wrong and where it can just be way too much and where it can just be bad. And now it's just becoming way too good and there's way too much stuff and there's way too everything, you know. Um, I would be like, if you're going to implement this, we need like PTR where we're really testing it heavily and we're keeping it limited and all sorts of stuff. Um, that's kind of like way too big of a shift, and I would be really scared. Improvements that raise the power level of lower performing builds and balance the meta. I'm overall a yes for this. I do think you need to be careful in how that all comes out. Again, I'm personally someone who's opposed to like melee splash just being generically on every single melee build, because then everything starts to get too samey. But I do think there could be improvements to a lot of skills where you're still keeping the identity of the skill, but you're improving the power level of it so it's not so terrible. But I do think it's good to have tiers, right? Like having S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. It's good to have tiers because you want to feel, like I love playing through the game on a character that's a little harder and a character that's a little easier and like feeling that difference, and it's a different experience through and stuff. If it's all just like, honestly, like a lot of the newer games like D4 or whatever, it doesn't really matter what skills I feel like I pick in a lot of it because everything just blows everything up, right? Everything just like dominates everything. And I don't feel like I'm getting a new experience. Whereas in D2, some characters I'm like having to be super positional and like fighting right in a doorway to block them off and stuff. And I don't want them to ever get rid of that where it's all just like super easy. But does Skeleton Mage just completely suck and is like worthless right now? Yeah. Like you could just improve Skeleton Mage and make it actually something that's fun, because it's not even fun to play through. It's just like bad overall. Um, and I do think there are some things you could do with some melee, right? I've said before, I'd love for Maul to have like a little bit of an AoE in front of it. That feels like a skill that should, have some AoE in front of it. And I think there could be other, types where they have, the cone that goes further out, your short AoEs in front. Obviously, like Cleave being able to go all the way around is one on the new Warlock. And some other, and it doesn't have to just be AoE focused. You could also just have like more stun effects, more though, just stuff to like, again, make everything more unique and playing into what it is and the power for that specifically. A hotkey that instantly initiates trading. I mean, sure. That's an interesting question. I don't really understand the. Yeah, okay. I mean, it is. Newtown characters, each with their own stories and services. Okay, so this is the more NPCs. Again, I don't really understand what. Um, like I don't care about stories personally. I'm not a lore person. Services, maybe the auction house person or the like whatever thing. I don't know. Expanded cube recipes and crafting options throughout item progression. Yeah, I think this is more in line. We just need like better crafting throughout, so that crafting throughout the game is more enticing. You feel like, hey, I can actually. We can't see the top one. What? You can see the top one. Right here. Um, like I'd love to just be able to craft as I'm playing through the game, crafting maybe be a little easier, and it's, easier to just craft some boots or some gloves or something that would actually be like mildly useful, at least for a few levels. Skill tree expansion that allows dynamic changes to existing skills. I'm gonna say no. I think this again belongs in newer games, and we do see it, right? It's a very like popular thing nowadays. Right? Diablo 4 has that where it's like, okay, if you press this one beyond it, this skill now penetrates 3 dudes instead of 1 dude. And, it becomes this type of skill. If you take Frozen Orb and you push this button, Frozen Orb is now a fire skill instead of an ice skill. I do think that kind of customization on skills is fun, but I just don't. I don't think it's Diablo 2. I don't think we should bring it in here. I think it would require a lot of work and testing, and there's a lot of room to mess it up. So that one's probably less appealing for me. An improved chat room experience with better UX and localization. Yes, most appealing. Most appealing. Click, 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 click. Please. This would be fantastic. The chat experience is so miserable right now in Diablo 2. And it's so sad because it's like, it used to be so fun. Like, chat used to be so great, and now it's just like complete garbage. It's slow. It doesn't work often. The channels are bad. There's no reason. You just like lose all the good talk. All the random trade chat messages that just pop up here and there. I want a completely improved lobby system, chat system, and let's add a guild system in. Why not? New monsters added into the game. Wow. I'm like mid on that. I feel like Diablo 2 actually has so many good monsters in it that I don't feel like it's necessary. Like maybe adding a boss or something if you wanted. But like, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many good mobs already. We already have that. It's not like we need it. A solo self-found mode with no trading or outside help. I'm going to say yes. Just to silence the haters. So they can make an SSF mode, and then I can go get first on SSF ladder, and then they can leave me alone. They won't. They'll still come up with some other thing to say. I think it'd be fun. The issue is you could just play offline, right? Like SSF is just offline. So it doesn't matter. But for the people that struggle with, I don't want to say like integrity exactly, but they're like, how can I play offline and not cheat? They're like, it has to be online so that I can have SSF. And there is the like being able to compete against others online, which I think is fun. So, I think like, yeah, the leaderboard is really fun. Again, I'd still have fun with it. I would play in this a ton and just have an absolute blast. Skill trees for individual skills, deeper specialization. Okay, we went over that. A new playable class. Wow. So another class. Bring in a Blood Knight. I'd be happy with a Blood Knight, or maybe some like cleric style. It'd be a little hard in D2, but I think there could be some fun with it. Yeah, I think that's decent. Reduce disparity between caster and melee classes through item and build balance. Yeah, I mean, again, I like having some difference, but I think if you're going to do this, you have to be willing to nerf a little bit as well. You can't just bring everything up. You have to be able to balance some things down as well and say, hey, casters are maybe a little too strong and melee is a little too weak. You know, um, I think you need to be able to do that. Because there are, right, a lot of casters do just breeze through things way too easily. So yeah, I think that'd be fun. But I think items is really a big thing, right? For melee and stuff. Increasing the base damage of items will do a lot to help it, and then maybe adjusting attack rating a little so it's not so miserable. Because if you remove attack rating from the game, let's just say, I'm not advocating for that, but if you remove attack rating from the game and you go out and like start hitting things, it actually feels really nice to play melee. Like the biggest issue is when you're hitting at like 50% of the time. Because then you're swinging in for a hit, you're missing, and then they're hitting you, and then you're in hit recovery, and it just creates this like awful feeling. But if you're just hitting the mobs and you're putting them into hit recovery and like all these things, it actually like feels good. And so whenever I play through the game and I like over level on my playthroughs, then I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually nice. But eventually, the mobs just get like way too high level at the end, and then it's just miserable and stuff. So really, chance to hit needs to be improved, I think. Meta progression where achievements or progress on one character benefits others. No. I'm just a no on that, personally. Unless it's like the Holy Grail gives you a reward of a cosmetic where your feet glow or something. Sure. Otherwise, no. New skills added to every class to expand build options. No. Again, I think like this is stuff we don't need to dive into. It's like too much, too many things. Like we have stuff to balance right now. Like let's go fix up the skills we have before we start adding all these new things in. Making previously one-off quest reward systems, e.g. socket imbuing, repeatable. I mean, that's way too good. If I can just keep grabbing an imbue and a socket, it just like ruins the, like, yeah, too OP. A new act with 6 quests continuing the story. Yeah, I'd say most appealing on that. Let's go. Let's get another zone. And some people are like, they can't just do this with the lore. How would they ever, like, there's already lore and stuff. It's like, I mean, they literally shoehorned Diablo Immortal in between Diablo 2 and 3. Like, they can make a little extra lore if they want, or do a side quest for it or something, More meaningful itemization with clear trade-offs and less automatic best in slot behavior. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for this, and I actually think this comes from reducing rune word power. If you ever watch any of my playthroughs, and you've watched any of my like older playthroughs, 1.0, 104, 10, right, whatever, or just like classic playthroughs, you see that. Like in all of those playthroughs, I'm running around with all these like crazy rares on and magic items and like really fun, unique, interesting item choices. Versus if you watch any of my Resurrected, Reign of the Warlock playthroughs, I have stealth, lore, spirit, Ancient's Pledge, right? Like like the same things all through, and then eventually you get up to Enigma, obviously, for any non-teleporting class, and like there's so many just like set pieces. It's really tough, and I've talked about this a lot before, because for some people this is good. For your more like kind of your more casual, and you're like, I write guides And it's good to write a guide and be like, hey, these are the items to look for. It's a lot harder to write a guide and say, hey, every slot is kind of going to be different and you're going to want to look for all these different affixes across it, but make sure, right? Like, it doesn't work as well. For many people, they just want to be told, go get Shaco. And they're like, I got Shaco. And then they're happy. I do think there's a really good place for that, where that is your like 80%, 70%, 80% power. And then your better comes beyond it, right? So your rares and your your rares and magics and like really good rolls all take over for the like high end. But you can still recommend for the player that's going to play, less hours, don't worry about those rares. And that's kind of the case, but it's like very specific to certain things. Whereas right now it's like you could nerf some of that down and improve some of the things. So what if like Spirit Shield wasn't your best shield? There was like rare shields that could be better. Well, to do that, you have to buff rare shields and nerf Spirit Shield. And I think you could do that and create that. No rare armor like matters anymore, but what if we increased rare armor some and then brought down COH, Fortitude, Enigma, right? Bring those down some. And so like I think like you can, if you want to actually make these other items valuable, whatever. I'm for it. I really think it's fun having, like playing Classic and just running around with all these rares and stuff, personally. But Charm Bags, yeah, 1000% clicking the most appealing. New appearance options for Town Portal visuals. Yes, I'm also very in favor of that. One, I like that they have that as the cool reward for the Runeward Grail. It looks super sick. Two, I would just love to see more of those. I think that's a really easy skin to add into the game that could be a reward for all sorts of different things. And it makes it easier when you're like playing with other people where everybody has their own portal, so you just know like, okay, that's his portal, that's his portal, and it makes it easier rather than having to constantly look through everyone to find whose is which. A new Paragon style talent tree system. No. At least no. Let's drop that one. Don't need that. An option to disable chat entirely. I don't really care, I guess. I mean, you can always squelch someone that you don't want to hear, so you can kind of do that. Just fix chat. We don't need that. Okay, we've already done that. The ability to build or create structures in game, e.g., statues, town elements. I mean, Darkhaven has it, and it's cool, like, over there. I don't think we need that in Diablo 2. That just feels like a different game. Server-wide activities, yes. Expanded queue recipes, yes. New playable class. Cursed items. See if there's anything new here. We might have had them all. Augment, remote, adding new mercenary. Oops. Looks like we probably hit them all. Yeah. Cool. So there's, within there, I think there's some good options. There's also some scary ones of like Diablo 4. Like, do we want to make this game Diablo 4? So definitely a few options that I'm like, heck no. But I think there's some great ones. Fixed chat, minor balance stuff, charm bag, all of those. This survey has since been submit. It's already like expired, I think, and stuff. I didn't want to make a video and influence when it first came out and influence people into, voting what I want. So I want to kind of wait until it was all done. But yeah, Very cool. A lot of good questions in there, and it's you know it is good to put some of those that are in there, even if they're ones that many people wouldn't like, just to see is this something people would like. So, anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.